So sometimes I like to do what I call a drive-by booking when I go to the library, scope out the covers, see what draws my eye. Do I like the title? And pick it up, we read the back, and we're like, maybe, and then maybe read a page or two to see what the style of writing is. So this book we're going to talk about today, that's how I found it, called I Cheerfully Refuse by Leif Enger. And I Cheerfully Refuse is actually the name of this book that this story talks about by this author, Molly Thorne. The story follows these two characters in the beginning. You have Rainey and Lark, and they are married. Lark is a bookseller, and Rainey is a bassist and a musician. It's kind of like a post-apocalyptic story, but people are still existing. It just seems like everything has broken down. It seems like government has broken down. People just kind of do what they want. So there's all these different little pockets of society, of these towns that are just, they barter. Sometimes they use money. Sometimes some people have cars. They're more few and far between. Sometimes there's shipments of gasoline. Sometimes there's not. And it's kind of a after something catastrophic maybe happened, but it doesn't really say what. So anyways, you come to this town. These two people live there, and occasionally they'll have like boarders to stay with them. They have a little upstairs room that they rent out from time to time. And this guy comes into their lives. His name is Kellen. He's got like this bright red hair, and he kind of feels like a younger brother to Rainey. Kellen's all like freaked out, like he's sort of on the run. He was what they call a squelette, which is a skeleton. He had worked and under a contract for like whatever government or rich people run all the crap now, and it's always horrible. They make very little money, and they just treat these people and run them into the ground. And when they escape, they go after them to try to bring them back or possibly kill them. So he's on the run, and he kind of like tells Rainey about this guy Warwick that will come after him, and he's like, if you see him, be out the back door before he can even get to you, because this guy is super dangerous. So he lives with them for quite some time. He has a car, kind of does some odd jobs and stuff, and Rainey helps him out with some different things, and he becomes kind of, like I said, like a younger brother to them. This town, there's a little bakery, there's a bookshop, and the way that books are acquired is basically now is if people die and they have an estate, Lark will go and, put in a bid for books to bring and have sold in her store. And she has like this holy grail book that she's been looking for a really long time, and it's called I Cheerfully Refuse by Molly Thorne. And Molly Thorne is just this very interesting figure. And this book was like, she didn't know if it existed or not. And Kellen was in possession of this book. And that was part of the reason that she was excited to have him come stay with them. So he gives her this book. She's almost like afraid to read it because it's something she's wanted and been searching for so long and wasn't sure if it existed or not. And so you have that. At this time, it's kind of a sad world. There's this drug that exists called Willow, and people take it to commit suicide, and it gives you just this peaceful, euphoric way out. You take it, you relax, and then you go beyond to find the next thing. And it's really sad, and they keep having all these articles popping up about people taking it, younger children, different people, and older people, and just the state of the world that they're living in is just it's kind of sad, but there's still pockets of beauty and there's still positivity if you can just find it and look in the right places. But as with things in life, tragedy does end up striking. Warwick does come looking for Kellen. Kellen escapes and gets out. One night when Rainey comes home, his house is torn apart and he finds Lark dead. And it was Warwick's people that did this. It's pretty sad at this point. And earlier on in Lark and his relationship, Lark is a sailor, and they had gone out and went sailing, and they went to these islands called the Slates. And while they were there, they ran into this other boat where this older woman was with this spiky, like, white gray hair. And they go up and they talk to her, and they have a pleasant time and really enjoy the talk with the lady. And then when they go back over to their boat, Lark's like, that was Molly Thorne. And Rainey's like, what? No, let's go ask her. She's like, no, 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 no. And like, because this is like a ghost that they've met, or because Molly Thorne is supposed to be dead or something, maybe, or to have disappeared. Lark is convinced that they saw Molly Thorne and that that's who that was, but she doesn't want to ask and break the magic and all that stuff. And so Rainey, and his just sad and He's broken. The tragedy of what happened is awful. And so he decides he's going to fix up his sailboat and he's going to go and he's going to sail back to the Slates and see if he can find Lark there and meet her in the beyond. Maybe her ghost will be there just like Molly Thorne was. And so he has this in his head and he's like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And so he fixes up his boat. And he ends up going a little sooner than later because Warwick's people come back and they try to get him. And so he like gets the F out of there. The boat was already down in the marina. He's in there and he's out. And so he takes off and he meets a lot of very interesting characters along the way. He meets this younger girl named Sol. And she was kind of in a really crappy situation with this dude, King Richard, who somehow or for some reason she was living with him. I don't know if she got dropped off there or what happened, but this guy seemed like a real skis ball. She ends up going with Rainey at some point in the story, and they're gonna go try to find her grandpa, who is supposed to be the super awesome guy. And at some point Rainey starts to think that maybe this grandpa doesn't really exist. Soul just needed to like tell that story so that he would take her away from this awful King Richard guy. And so they go off on the sea and they have these insane like adventures. They're running away, but they also meet some really interesting folks and some good people along the way. So in the end, does Rainey finally make it to the Slates and does he find Lark? Maybe he does. It's such a beautiful book. It's sad, it's emotional, it's sweet, it's heartfelt, and the writing is very interesting. It was written in a different way and I don't know how to describe it fully. It didn't read like a normal story to me and I can't figure out why. Maybe it was how it was narrated. It might have been how it was narrated. I'm not 100% sure, but I loved it. I thought it was really fantastic. At some points it feels dreamlike, but there's so much in the story and I really like the characters. The character development was really good. The pockets of beauty, the pockets of heartbreak, the storminess of the story, and just how it all comes together at the end. It was quite beautiful. Like I said, random drive-by booking. That was a good one. Another book that I really like that has like that weird, dark and stormy vibe is, if you haven't read The Fisherman by John Langdon, kind of has a vibe like that. Only that story's a little more like H.P. Lovecraft-ish. And if you're interested in that, that will be the next video coming up. So stick around and check it out. And if you had fun hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.